even more people to this discussion. So we're really, really excited to have you all here. My name is Victoria Jennings. I'm a supportive housing analyst at IHCDA, and I manage a lot of our reentry initiatives at IHCDA. This morning we have Julie Randall of Family Promise of Hendricks County and Lori Cox of Affordable Housing and Community Development Corporation in Marion. We also might have Danette Romines of Aurora here today, if she's able to join us. Today I'm very briefly going to just give you an overview of why these organizations are doing reentry specific programs, and then we'll launch into our panel. So Candace, if you can go to the next slide, and the next one after that. So all of our panelists today are recipients of or administrators of IHCDA's reentry rental assistance program. So some of you may be familiar with this program, but I'm just going to very briefly, provide some information about this. So you can go to the next slide. So each year, IHCDA allocates a portion of its Home Investment Partnerships Program funds towards tenant-based rental assistance for individuals who are re-entering or formerly incarcerated and experiencing homelessness. IHCDA grants these funds out to qualified nonprofit organizations, public housing agencies, and local units of government through an annual competitive request for qualifications process. So these funds can pay for security deposits, utility deposits, as well as ongoing rental assistance for up to 24 months for eligible, income qualified eligible households. So those eligible households are those that have incomes at or below 60% AMI initially, and then ongoing income that does not exceed 80% AMI. And then they must be experiencing one of the housing situations that are listed on this screen. So they must be currently in the process of exiting incarceration or reentering, or they must have been formerly incarcerated at any point and currently experiencing homelessness, or they must have been formerly incarcerated and currently experiencing a housing crisis where this program would prevent their eviction. This third criteria is a new criteria that we introduced during the pandemic, and we ask that these individuals take a lower priority because there are other pandemic resources that can assist this population. So since 2018, we have served over 225 households through this program, and it is because of our very skilled and wonderful recipients. So, we truly, really value these partnerships, and IHCDA could not do that, without these, without all of our administrators. So if you could go to the next slide. So we do see several challenges and opportunities through this program. So, this is a rapid rehousing program. So, one of the opportunities is that we can make those payments for up to 24 months. So depending on whether the household is exiting homelessness or exiting incarceration, that length of assistance can vary, and there is that flexibility there to customize the length of assistance. Our payment standard is rent reasonable rather than fair market rent. So, we can pay a higher, lease, and that does open up more housing options in the community. This funding source also does not have any restrictions on the type of criminal history. So those individuals that are excluded from other programs, maybe for manufacturing methamphetamines in public housing or being on the lifetime sex offender registry, are not excluded from this program. So they can be served with this funding source. IHCDA as a funder does not require that conviction be within a certain time frame, that it be a certain type of conviction. So it can be, recipients can customize that participant selection plan to the needs that they're seeing in their community. Some challenges with this program is that it is a federal program. There are restrictions on what this program can pay for, and unfortunately that's limited to, what I said in that first slide. So we cannot reimburse for some of those essential supportive services that people need coming out of reentry or coming out of homelessness, and so our recipients need to identify other funding sources to support those clients. Can you go back to the other slide? Of course, as we all know, there's also just a shortage of affordable units and a shortage of landlords willing to rent to, anyone who's receiving assistance. And then, of course, individuals with criminal histories and then individuals who are, exiting with recent criminal histories. So we will get into a lot of these challenges with our panelists who have a lot of experience working with this population. So we don't have a microphone, so, when I ask if you could project a little bit. So I think that we will start today by, if you could just very briefly, kind of talk about the location of your service area and maybe if your program focuses on a specific subpopulation further than, the general program focus. So yeah, Julie, we can start.
I feel like I need to stand up. Is that, yeah. So I'm Julie Randall. I'm the Executive Director of Family Promise of Hendricks County. We're right just west of Indianapolis in Hendricks County, Plainfield, Avon, Brownsburg. Those are kind of the big cities that we have in Hendricks County. And this work became really important to us because of probably the reason all of you are in this room right now is our hands were tied. We have so many people with criminal records and were experiencing these kind of things in their lives and had no available housing for them. Just became frustrated, knew we needed to create some sort of better solution to that. And then by receiving this grant, we were able to really focus our efforts on creating a program that really addressed this unique and special need the formerly incarcerated have for housing in our community. Yeah. Okay, perfect, thanks.
I'm Lori Cox from Affordable Housing, Associate Director there. And I'll just piggyback on what Julie said. We had the same thing. We had stacks and stacks of applications of people that there was no way to assist them. They couldn't get Section 8, they couldn't get different things. So when this became available, we jumped on that opportunity. And it seems to be working well for us.
I'm not going to stand up because of projecting. My name is Danette Romines. I'm the Director of Programs at Aurora in Evansville, Indiana, which is in Region 12. We do a lot with Category 1 homelessness as far as our street outreach and then also our housing programs, but the reentry was definitely a unique need in our area for a lot of the same reasons. And we do a lot of collaborative work with a lot of our other agencies to make this work. So it's not just this program, it's this program in collaboration with a lot of other support systems.
So something that came up this morning are the challenges that those who have very serious criminal convictions, the barriers that those individuals face when they're attempting to identify housing. Can you talk a little bit about the strategies that you employ to house those with the highest barriers, including those who may be on the lifetime sex offender list?
Okay, so let's just start with the hardest, very hardest, are sex offenders. And we all know that there's such limited housing, even with people with perfect backgrounds can hardly get into housing, let alone people who are sex offenders or have some really serious felonies. And so one of our best solutions is mobile homes. They can buy them themselves and they don't have to pass the background check. In our community, we don't have a lot of mobile homes, but we have enough that's something that if you own your own home, you don't have to pass the background check. And so we kind of push some of our clients in that direction, have some extra funds from extra areas that we're able to assist them with down payments to buy their own trailers or maybe one day their own home. Right now we have a guy who did that. He was a sex offender and realized that we couldn't get him in housing anywhere else. And so he bought a trailer and now is in a better spot. The other thing that we can do a lot of times with our sex offenders, unfortunately, is that they have to stay in extended stay hotels for a long period of time. And those have kind of become the mecca for people with these kinds of offenses because there really is no other way to house them. But the solution to all of this housing crisis comes down to one thing: landlords. Because we can talk about doing this and doing that and all these extra money and I mean, we have money, right? What we don't have are landlords that are compassionate and are willing to rent to our clients. And so what we've done is we've taken the perspective of building those relationships with landlords and property managers. So much so that we have, I'm just the figurehead. I have my real staff right here in front that can really answer a lot of those kind of questions. But we have right now over 60 units because of landlords that believe in the work that we do. And so we're able to pull from those when there are empty units. We're able to pull from those because they trust us, because our program supports the tenants. They allow us to get into that housing. And that really truly is the solution for us, is those relationships that we form with landlords. And we do that in the biggest way is we do MOUs with our landlords. So memorandums of understanding that we'll guarantee their rent for that year. And this grant has allowed us to be able to do that, at least, actually up to 2 years. But for at least a year, we're able to guarantee that their rent is going to be paid. Now, are they going to be evicted for other reasons? Possibly. But because we also continue with case management and stability services to keep them stable while they're in that home, the possibility of them causing problems or not able to pay their rent goes down dramatically. And we've done it year after year and built up these relationships with landlords and property managers. They now have faith in us and therefore have faith in the clients that we bring to them. And that's been the best way that we've been able to rehouse people. So far this year, we don't just do a criminal, we don't just do a formerly incarcerated, we also have domestic violence, chronically mentally ill, straight up, just regular old homelessness. And we've already rehoused over 100 families just this year because of that method of we're working directly with landlords. It takes a while, like it doesn't just happen overnight. You know, we have a housing team of four people, and all of them are continually looking for additional housing in our community, continuing those relationships with landlords, keep working hard to secure them so that they are able, when units are available, that they're for us. And it's made a huge difference for us.
And Julie, that's in Hendricks County only, right?
Yeah, so actually no. We actually have some units in Marion County as well, from landlords and property managers that are willing to work with us here. It takes a lot of faith, you know, and our stability services are the other big part of this. So, you know, we have a child care center, we have a transportation program, we help people find jobs. You know, we do all of those other things that when we talk to a landlord about what we do as an organization, they're like, yeah, right on, that's good, that's good. You guys are kind of less of a risk than somebody else that I'm just taking an application from. And so by being able to provide that extra support and the extra reassurance, that's what really creates those housing opportunities for us as an organization.
I'm just curious, your MOU, are you just pledging the case management and the supervision of the client? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I know. So I've been a social worker for over 25 years and been in housing for all of that time. I never thought that we'd be in a place in our career where we would be saying, yeah, we're guaranteeing rent. But that's where we landed.
Oh, so you're guaranteeing the rent?
We are guaranteeing rent.
The rent and the MOU for the duration of the lease?
For the duration of the
But you're
lease.
not guaranteeing the case management?
Yes, that's part, yes. We
Part of
guarantee
it?
all.
The
Yeah,
whole
we
thing?
do it all. Yeah, we do the whole lot.
Because I do that on a handshake, but I never thought of doing it on an actual piece of paper. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it really does help. It really gives them that assurance.
And you guarantee them after if they've been evicted mid-lease, you still guarantee that?
Yeah, that continues, correct, Katrina?
Usually in the cloud, but while the tenant lives there.
Yeah, while the tenant was.
Right, so if they get evicted then?
Yeah, but we won't let them get evicted.
No, I know.
They're to pay rent, but if it's for something else, then yeah.
Yeah.
But then we don't walk away from them either, you know, like we'll help them find other housing.
Right, no, I meant with the landlord, like they're not gonna finish, you're not gonna finish paying off that. Okay,
Yeah.
got you. Thank you.
And the beauty of it for the landlord is too, you know, they can keep their deposit
Right.
and we'll say, we'll put another tenant in this unit right away. So we've had that, you know, we've had tenants that have just not worked out.
Right,
And so it's not working out. So we'll take them, move them to another place
right, and
and
put somebody
then
else
put
right
someone
in.
else right back into that unit, yeah.
So basically, we're gonna be able to assure the landlord that you're gonna have a renter and you're gonna be paid. And if the one renter in the place doesn't work out, then we're gonna assure you that you have another renter.
That's right.
And you're gonna get paid. And so they're gonna love that aspect because they know that there's gonna be some oversight and they're gonna get paid.
That's exactly right. And we even take it to the next level because of our RHCD funds. We're able to actually do rehab in units too. So we have a number of units that when we move one out, we actually pay for the rehab. The landlord doesn't, just so we can continue to secure that unit, we'll pay for that rehab. And They love us.
Yes,
Wow.
absolutely.
What I'm noticing in our region is, after the lockdown, private investors have bought these properties, and now they're actually profiting off of empty homes and properties because the application fees are so substantial that if you take a property that you only want $650 a month for, and you charge $75 a head for an application fee, if you do 10 in a month, it just paid more than the rent. And I've had them actually laugh at me on the phone that this is something that these businesses are doing. And it's hard to get to the person behind it all, because we're now getting to call centers and people who, this is business, and they don't care about MOUs or what I do
Right.
in the community, they just want their money. So what do you do to get past that barrier, because it's becoming a huge one?
It is huge, especially in the donut counties, like it is a big deal. They don't even, sight unseen, they're buying these properties without even ever seeing the property. So the best thing that I can say to do, of course, I wish our local government would step in and do something, but this is Indiana, so that will not be happening. So, but what we do is we focus more on private landlords and we stay away from the corporations because they're just really difficult to work with.
It's almost impossible.
It has been. So the mom and pop landlords are really, that's where we really can get things done. Go ahead.
Have you run into any trouble with, like, let's say you have, 10 or 12 units in one location and you're serving survivors of sexual violence and you're also serving sex offenders? Like, how does that placement, do you run into any issues with like, oh dang, I really want to house this person, but I just housed an offender there? Like, how do they feel about it?
So we have had sort of that kind of issue and we know it. We know it, we just separate it. We just don't allow, like we've had domestic violence survivors in the same area as an offender, not on them, but on his new girlfriend. It's just, yes. So yes, you just have to be really careful to keep people separated. Yeah.
Yeah, well, these are really quick, great questions. I want to give Lori and Danette the opportunity to respond to any of the questions that have been asked, and also, to respond to the question of, any strategies that you employ, to house those that maybe have some of those highest barriers, especially in terms of criminal conviction.
We're just starting, our program is not that elaborate yet, so we would love to see it grow. We also have focused on the private landlord and partnerships with other organizations, mental health organizations, those who are support groups for those who are coming out of incarceration, and they're working to find landlords who may not know exactly who we are or what we do. So they've allowed us to form that partnership. But we have also said, if this doesn't work out, we have another one, let us know what you have. But it's getting them, the problem there is getting them to quality standards. So just making sure that they're covered that way as well. But once you get into one private landlord, I think that kind of has a domino effect and you can get to others. And they're coming to us now, so that's making it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I'd have to echo a lot of that. The private landlords are definitely our biggest partners in our area. We have quite a few management companies that other people own the home, but they don't want to have to deal with the rent collection or doing the maintenance and stuff. And so we've been partnering up with a lot of the management companies, and they're able to kind of help spread, rather than it hitting on one particular landlord, they spread it out between owners so nobody gets too burnt on it. And then the double deposit's super helpful as a negotiation tool. We don't offer it outright, but yeah, our biggest barrier is definitely sex offenders and arson charges. Arson charges in our area are way worse than sex offenders if you had to level them out and everything. So, but yeah, and then our case management team, who also does the housing, is awesome with our particular program. And so without them, I don't think I would be sitting in this spot talking to you guys today.
Yeah, so Julie, you talked a little bit about how you formed those MOUs. And, Lori and Danette, you talked a little bit about how you kind of need one in to, get some of those properties those relationships started. So what are some, tactics you use to, kind of get landlords on board with housing this population? What are some, persuasive conversations that you have that have been successful to get landlords to work with you and continue working with you over time, even when some cases don't work out? So maybe Jeanette, we can start with you.
Well, like I mentioned, there's a lot of property management, and there's a property management group called POMA, which is Private Owner Management Association, something like that. But yeah, so we partner up with POMA quite a bit, and we also look for some of those larger property managers to kind of make sure that they understand the most, so then that way there's the ripple effect throughout other property managers that might not be comfortable talking to us directly, but are comfortable talking to another property manager, and they can champion us on a lot of occasions. So that's one way that we help mediate, is to establish our credibility. And yeah, so once again, collaboration is really neat.
We've asked other landlords to have their associates contact us. We've done a coffee hour where we reached out to those that were known landlords in the area, made sure that the Public Housing Authority knew that we had these funds available. Try to have the tenant or the participants search for their own, and when they find one, invite that landlord in for a conversation. And sometimes they'll say, hey, I know this guy, and he's got this one, and so it's just really not that so far.
Yeah, and I agree with that completely. It is, you find ways. One creative way that we found out to do it, we also have an eviction prevention program at our organization. And so we're in all of the eviction courts in Hendricks County. We mediate with the landlords and the attorneys prior to the hearings, and then continue, hopefully, to be able to stop that eviction. Well, so we know everybody in the whole county who's filing an eviction. And so we utilize those relationships. So we have someone in that courtroom talking to that attorney, talking to that landlord, saying, hey, well, let's try and keep this tenant in their home. We'll pay whatever they owe, or we'll work out an agreement, and then that, again, starts to form that relationship. So look at your court dockets. I know it sounds kind of weird to do it, but look at your court dockets. It's going to show in your counties, your eviction courts, it's going to show all of the different evictions that have been filed, and it's kind of a sneakier way to find some of those landlords as well. And they don't want to evict, right? Like, that's not what we want to do. It's way cheaper to keep people working, unless they're some of those big out of state, they don't care. They're going to evict after 10 days no matter what. But a lot of the other ones don't want to do that. And so, reaching out to them, trying to mediate, to be able to keep people in their homes, and then starting to form those relationships with those landlords has helped as well. Real estate groups too, like you have a MIBOR or something like that exists in your community. A lot of times, real estate agents are also landlords, and they're usually pretty kind people. Because you gotta have kind people to do this, right? Because so you're gonna have to play on empathy, and I know we all know how to do that, all right? So, I mean, that's really, really important to be able to do that. And real estate agents are another good way to get that done. Agree.
One thing I would add is a lot of times, hi, I'm Katrina. One of the things that they like is the ongoing case management. So I really sell that to potential landlords, because they're afraid that the crimes of the person's past are going to become an issue again, especially like with drugs. So a lot of landlords are really hesitant with anybody with a drug background. So we just promise that we're going to be really involved. So I show up at people's houses. We keep in constant communication. If the landlord has any problems, they know they can contact us, and we will try to get ahead of the problem before it's too late. So just that ongoing communication with the landlord and the tenant is what helps a lot.
Okay, I know there were crowd questions before. I want to make sure we answer those. Sure, go ahead.
Where do you get your funding for the rehab of the places for the landlord? You said you paid.
Yeah, so that's, we have a couple of sources. So we're a pretty large organization and have some private funders that help us. And so some of it's from that. But Rapid Rehousing is the CV. Are you familiar with that? Yeah. So if anybody has that grant, part of that grant you can use to rehab units. So you can pay up to 3 times, correct me if I messed up, 3 times their rent in rehab for a unit. So we can go in and do carpet and paint or any other kind of minor rehabs on those units. So yeah, that money's coming.
I have a question. I appreciate, first of all the ladies, thank you. I appreciate it. The question, I believe I'm from Lake County, Indiana. What happened is right now, our biggest rock is that we're facing is the emergency housing voucher. And a lot of times when we do our gas cadets and when they do the COC, you know, they do their meetings, a lot of times, a lot of our clients, my clients as well, some case manager, the wall is, if they have a felony, they can't get back. So it's like, what do you all have maybe to help us in the resources with that? Because it's like, that's the hurdle right now that we're facing. Because as soon as we get there, they're so excited, they know the program, they do what they're supposed to do. And then as soon as they get, oh, you can't get nothing, you know what I'm saying? We don't have nothing for it, so.
It is so crazy frustrating, and they've done everything right, you know, they've paid for their crimes, what do we want to say, right? And so they're trying to do everything right. So for us too, it's that emergency time period, so after they're released from jail or from prison, you don't have a job, you have a criminal record, and likely you have prior evictions, and we all know those are the 3 strikes, you're out, and you're done. And so all of our people have those 3 strikes. So what do you do, right? How do you do that? So we work with a lot of people that come straight out of work release, which really helps. Because if you're talking about our work release population, they have jobs, which is, we got one thing figured out. And if we can get past the criminal record, because again, if they're on work release, a lot of times their crimes aren't as severe, and so they're a little bit easier to house. And so we work with them while they're in work release. You know, and that helps a lot. So, you know, if you can spend your time during that time period, that's very, very helpful. The same with home detention. I have a sweet story about one of our guys on home detention. He's on home detention for 10 years of home detention. And so he's living in this trailer park and he's trying to do the best he can. Well, the trailer park actually hired him now as a maintenance man because he just already did so many good things within that trailer park. So again, he's redeeming himself in a lot of ways, which really helps a lot. So let me just go back to the real crisis though, because we experience this all the time. You get out of prison, you get out of jail, you're homeless. There's no room in shelters for you. You've been part of our great program, this TBRA program. We're supposed to be rehousing you, but you're homeless. What do we do with you? And so what we have done is that we put our people who just get out of incarceration into extended stay hotels. We help pay that way until they get a job. And then once they get a job, they go to self-pay. So they start paying themselves. And then during all of that time period, we're fighting really hard to find housing for them. And that's the only way we've found a way in our community without a shelter to be able to help those people who are struggling through that. Yeah, and we have negotiated hotel rates too. So we're only paying like $1,200 a month for a shop. Yeah.
So I'm also dealing with folks, my entire list is actually criminally involved, but they also have serious mental illness. And they tend to not have any income, nor may they ever have an income. So I'm more fighting for SOAR benefits for them rather than getting a job. Are your population, are you dealing with that at all, and how are you working that into your system?
It is so hard. It is so hard. It is so hard because we just don't, so we're talking about chronically mentally ill people that you know are never going to be able to afford housing by themselves. So we need more permanent supportive housing is what we need.
Yes, we do. Yeah, rapid housing is nice, but that does not work for my kids.
Yeah, exactly.
So not going to speak to that at all.
She's already said a lot of the things that I would have said, although we don't have the rehab part of it. And then also, we do have shelters, and we don't have the ability to do the hotel stays at this point. And so, yeah, we rely a lot on the shelters, but we are working with our community reentry network to help identify people in need while they're still serving time before they're out on work release. So they have to be within a certain time. We're still developing it, so it's in the early stages, but trying to close the gap between release and housing is the big part. And then we're also working with, the daycare voucher agency in our area
There is a parenting time center that is a mediation for, child reunification. Work release programs. So we're really close partners with, parole officers, probation, the judges. We also have a mental health court and a substance use court, which is also super helpful. So we just really rely on our network of wraparound services and trying to get into the jails or the prisons earlier.
Can I just ask one more question? Because I just learned this the other day. Apparently you can go restart someone's benefits if they have them before you, or you can start them on their benefits 30 days to 120 days before they're released from jail. But you have to set it up between the jail and the prison and Social Security. Have you ever tried that?
I didn't know that was a thing either.
Oh, okay. I'm just wondering if anybody's ever done it, because I'm about to do it. I'm wondering what I'm about to do.
It's not something I've ever done, but we do have a participant who has an advocate
Okay,
who has actually worked that out with them.
really?
So when she came out, she went right back to drawing her.
That's
SSDI.
that's one of my goals, is to make that happen, because I've had people out and I've had housing for them, like that I've managed, but they've had no income, and that is a recipe for trouble, I've learned. So, yeah, okay, well, I guess I'm just gonna go in there then.
So is this funding gonna be like, is it for one region? Is this funding that you guys already had, that you've like expanded or will expand to our regions? Like, that's kind of where I'm at with this.
Yeah, so IHCDA annually releases this request for qualifications, and any organization that's an eligible organization anywhere in the state can submit an application for funding. And you can specify where you would like to serve. So it could be your service area, whether it's one city, it can be a county, it can be multiple counties. And we release that annually, so it has not yet been released this year, but it will be within the next several weeks. So please keep an eye out for that.
Because in our region, we actually encompass a prison, so it makes sense to me, because they get a $75 gate release, and then they're out in our community, so now we get flooded with a lot of that. And so it's really hard, it's a huge barrier for us, so that's good to know.
Someone else.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking for a little bit of assistance if you have suggestions for once you've got them housed. So I have a number of clients who are pretty far outside what we would consider acceptable behavior. I've got clients who have been described as having a 24-hour-a-day revolving door slumber party. Another client who got real mad at their neighbor, drug all their furniture, blocked down the street and set it on fire. And it's great. And I'm wondering either if there are resources that I could maybe try to help these people learn what's appropriate behavior. Or, I mean, I've done a little bit of corralling who I will take a client to as far as a landlord to maybe not burn a landlord. And I hate doing that, but what do you do when you have a client that you know they're going to set their neighbor's apartment on fire and they're going to make them mad because they're very inflammatory. So I'm not sure how to keep them housed.
Yeah, so can each of you kind of speak to that? So first, the types of services that you provide to kind of help people, maintain that lease throughout their term of assistance, and then also, how you choose who you house and how you house them within the community. So maybe Jeanette, we can start with you and kind of go down.
Yes, I hear you on the whole hating to navigate people in one direction versus another to not burn a landlord. We were just having that conversation yesterday about how we have a brand new landlord on board, and and then the person that needs to be housed within that program is like a super high barrier folk, and we're like, oh my gosh, we're going to set napalm on this landlord with this person, and so we're trying to balance it out. We're still working on it. But you feel ashamed because it goes against everything that you're out here to do, which is, integrate everybody. Oh gosh, I've got off on a tangent, I'm sorry.
Types of services.
Yeah, so once again, the reentry network is it's a lot of services together, the court systems together, and then also we, in the Evansville area, there's just a lot of services all over. And so what we do as case management is we have to take on the mindset that we can't be everything to everybody. And so whenever there's another agency that's involved that could be able to help that particular situation, be it a mental health center, there's Peace Zone in Evansville, which is just basically a walk-in recreational area specifically geared to serve people with mental health issues. And so there's like a pool table and reading area, and so they're all very sensory oriented and things like that. But it's a safe space that if, you know, I have a tendency to shout out quite a bit, I'm not going to be shamed for it. So so those are some places that we get them involved. And if they get involved in Peace Zone, then they can probably get more acclimated to attending mental health supports too. So we just maintain an up-to-date menu of everything that's out there and what our services, and then by case, we just try to integrate that. And of course, it's not 100%, but it's definitely helped reduce a lot of the high barrier issues or the feeling that I'm failing somebody because I don't know everything about everything.
We've asked that our participants have a referral partner. So that person has actually worked with us to help house these more difficult situations. If someone says to me, I really need to be by myself, I don't want to be in an apartment building, of course you can guide them because they've asked you specifically. So as Donette said, you're trying to make sure that you're providing fair housing at all times. But if we work with a referral partner and let them know, this is what we have, and then they can choose, they can work with them to choose which landlord they want to work with or which area they might need to go to. And if we know that it's only an apartment complex, we just steer them away from that so that maybe they don't have neighbors. We've had a lot of them who have come from prison and they don't want neighbors. They don't want to be in a quad, or some of them even a duplex. So you just have to know your inventory.
Can you explain your referral partner system and how that ties into providing services during tenancy?
The referral partner system is available on our website. We kind of formed a committee, talked around before we committed to this program, and we have some transitional housing, homeless shelters, probation departments, and we kept them all informed. They let us know what they had so that we knew how to develop our program based on the need in our area. They communicate regularly. The participant lets us know whether they want us to communicate on everything or not on everything. It's been extremely helpful that they have someone other than us, because they get very frustrated that there's only 2 of us and there's 195 of them. So if we can go back to the referral partner or send them out to an advocate, that depending on their probation guidelines and things like that, it's a little bit different as to how you can direct them, but there are other sources that can help guide them through that. And the referral source has been a great help in the case management part of it for our agency, because we're not that big.
Julie, can you talk a little bit about the services you provide to help, people stay stably housed, and then also, how you make those decisions about where to house people who might, be more unstable coming into their lease?
So I think the number one most important thing that we do at Family Promise is have people on staff with lived experience. So not only lived experience like they've been incarcerated and now they work for us, but also we have staff that actually have worked in corrections. And so having those types of people working directly with the people we serve is a game changer, right? They can automatically relate. It's not this, I'm 49-year-old upper class white woman telling this guy to quit setting his neighbor's garbage on fire. It's somebody that's way more relatable to them. And so that makes a big difference. So the hardest people to keep in housing, those kind of extremes, you kind of have some for that. But the majority of people just need the basics, right? They need to make sure that they've got a car that runs. They need to make sure they have childcare. They need to make sure they have a job that pays their bills. And so we provide intense case management, like in all the time, every day kind of case management. And we have a different model at Family Promise. We don't refer anything out, we bring everything in. And that has changed our organization as well. Instead of sending referrals, we make sure that we have the programs and services on site that work. And we hold people's hands and we walk with them and we stay with them and we don't give up. The beauty of this program is it's all about grace, right? Because of this grant, people can use drugs and still have their housing. They can go back to jail and get back out 2 months later, 2 months, and still have their housing. Like, it's 6 months. It doesn't go away. You know, there's forgiveness, there's grace. And when you have that in your life, and you also have somebody that's advocating and holding your hand, you can do more. You can do better. You do better. And we've seen that that's truly what makes a difference within our organization and the clients that we serve. And we're fortunate that we're a large enough organization that we have, like we have a car repair program, we have a car donation program, we have a child care center, like we have those things. But aspire to that within your own organizations. Don't rely on it to come from all these other places when you know it's not working. When you're just referring a problem away or you're referring something somewhere else and you know it's a dead end, don't do it. Stay with them, hold tight.
Someone mentioned fair housing a second ago. A lot of times what we run into is, you're on the phone with a new landlord, you're trying to sell the program, they might be interested, they might be sympathetic, but then they say, well, due to fair housing, we can't approve someone with that criminal background. And then the conversation just kind of stops.
Yeah, well, that's not fair housing.
They will pull that card out to benefit,
Yeah.
them, and so.
Yeah, then, I would say, have your little checklist in hand, and this is what fair housing means, and this is what it doesn't mean. Not housing someone who's been formerly incarcerated is not fair housing.
But when they have a certain rules that they have to follow, like we can't accept anyone with this.
No, that's property management rules. That's not fair housing rules.
Right. Yeah. Right. So what do you do? How do you compete that? How do you move forward? I guess from that.
You educate them. I tell them this is what fair housing is and this is what it's not. You don't even have to have, and I know this is going to blow your mind, but you do not even have to have a driver's license or an ID to get housing. That's all property management. We let property managers and landlords define what qualifies for housing. It doesn't have to exist. Now, they're not going to cooperate with you if you don't show up with an ID, then you got a problem, right? But there is no standard that creates that. That's all them creating their own. Zach, Zach, do you have anything else you can say about that?
No, I think property managers use fair housing as an excuse as usually sometimes. I've heard that a lot as a renter, asking for, concessions on late fees or things, and so, well, because of fair housing, I think that we treat you differently. So I think there's just a lot of misconception about what that is sometimes at the frontline staff level especially. So yeah, having educational materials to say, well, that's not quite what that means, and you really do have the option to make policies be more lenient with certain people, especially when you're getting guaranteed rent payments. So there's a reason why you're doing that. So I think that just having education is important.
But their hands are tied by whoever's above them, so it's like, how high do you need to go to get this?
I think this is a really great conversation because I think tax credit projects, I would love to see IHTDA step in more on those tax credit projects. And every time I've asked them to, they totally have, and really advocate for our people because IHTDA doesn't want this for us. They want low barrier housing so that all of our people in this room have housing. That's the goal. And when we have these tax credit projects, especially that have property managers that are so strict, we need to fight back as people who serve this population and continue to talk to IHCDA about doing those things for us. Because we can't do it by ourselves. They're not going to listen probably to you, right? But they're going to listen to IHCDA when they know they're going to get other tax credit projects from them. So sometimes you got to use that kind of message.
whose ear do we need to get into for like the people who are profiting on the vulnerability of our clients? Because when I hear a property management company tell me that I can get 10 applications at $75 a month, and that equates to more than the rent, they've now done a hard pull on people's credit. And then like I'll ask my clients to get the hard copy of that credit report because as a consumer, that's what I would do because I care about my credit score. And then they'll be denied that, which I've had to like write up the Fair Credit Reporting Act and get it for my client. At that point, I become the advocate and talk about rights and they get it. And then the landlord's mad because now I've broken through a barrier they're creating amongst landlords and they don't like that because you can submit that to the next landlord if it's current, and a lot of people don't know that. That's a workaround I've recently found, but it's a huge issue. So for me, I'm like, what, I will get into the ear of whoever, but it's huge.
Yeah, so we can conference about this after. So our time is up. This has been really good conversation. I appreciate all of the crowd questions. If you have questions for our panelists, I think they can hang around for a couple minutes after this before lunch. If you have questions about this program, please come talk to me. I'm happy to talk about it more. We have more grant recipients who are not here today, so this is a statewide program. So